Hi everyone! Living remotely is not conducive to posting videos on the internet. I've tried to post episode 40 on 4 different occasions and failed each time. One time the generator kicked in and the power fluctuation knocked my computer off. Another time the bandwidth was way too slow. Another time I ran out of bandwidth. For whatever reason, I've been unable to post a video, and I'm going to have a backlog of videos to post when we return to the lower 48. In the meantime, we find, a plane going by. It's been really busy today. In the meantime, we find that we are very busy here. It's almost like being on the boat. There is always something to do. We'll be involved in a project and then an interruption will come along. For example, the tide will be right and it's time to put out the salmon net. Of course, when the net goes out, that means we're going to have fish that we're going to have to process. Sometimes a neighbor will come along and ask us, hey, do you want to go to town? So whatever happens, it's always fun and a challenge, and we really enjoy being busy here. The lower floor of the barn houses John's tractor, power equipment, and part of it will become Christy's garden shed. Eventually, there will be a self-contained apartment on the upper floor. When we first arrived, only the bathtub was installed. Lee and John installed the shower plumbing and cement backer board. When more green board was needed, John took Christy and me in the skiff early one morning to the closest road, where a friend from Kodiak picked us up. Christy and I made the purchase and hitched a ride back on the monk's boat from the nearby Russian Orthodox monastery. Meanwhile, back at the Cove, John installed a hot water heater and built a housing for it. Lee made it his job to install insulation and, of course, work on the electrical system. A temporary toilet and lavatory were put in, as there was no time to put in the tiles for the floor or around the tub. The accommodation was now ready for 3 friends that would be arriving by float plane. It was an exciting day when the Andrew Air float plane arrived. The pilot did a reconnaissance flyby before landing. The cost of the short flight from Kodiak was a little over $500. A wheeled plane landing at the airstrip across the street in Helsinki is much cheaper. One pays for convenience. Once the plane was close enough to shore, the pilot stepped onto the pontoon, swung the plane around, and grasped the rope that is attached to the tail and trails the plane in flight. The DR power wagon again came in handy. And after a few minutes of chatting, the pilot and plane were on their way back to Kodiak. While Bruce, Ian, and Cesar were here, we had a salmon blind tasting with 4 kinds of freshly caught salmon. While the guys were occupied with the barn, Christy and I picked berries, worked in the garden. I began a sourdough starter, did a lot of baking, and we split wood. When Gene called and asked if we would like to go into town, he needed to pick up a wheelbarrow, we jumped at the chance. With Gene's 200 horsepower Honda on his Hughescraft, the trip was a little more than half an hour, and soon we were entering the channel that passes through Kodiak's waterfront. There are 2 harbors, St. Herman Harbor to the south, more commonly known as Dog Bay, where Christy keeps her truck, and St. Paul Harbor, where we tied up. To me, it was fascinating looking at all the different types of fishing vessels, from Bering Sea crab boats made famous in Deadliest Catch to salmon seiners. There were even a few sailboats scattered in among the fishing fleet. With wheelbarrow aboard, we headed back. One of the things I enjoy the most is the view over the strait. The scene and moods of the strait are ever changing, and I don't think I will ever get tired of it. The shortening of the daylight hours is very noticeable now, and we find that we are going to bed earlier and sleeping later. The sun rises further south every day, and the birds are disappearing. A reminder that winter cold will soon be on its way. This land has so much to offer, and we look forward to sharing more of its delights with you. So, until then,